everyone, my name is Rachel. I have a connective tissue disorder called Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, and I thought it would be fun to do a little Q&A on my journey with EDS. So I asked you guys on Instagram what some of your questions are, and I'll just jump right into it. So here we go. So first of all, what is EDS? So EDS stands for Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, and there are, I think, 13 known types of EDS right now, the most common being the hypermobility type, and all other types of EDS are considered to be very rare. So it's a connective tissue disorder that really can affect any system in your body. It can affect all of your organs, your skin, your joints, pretty much anything. EDS really looks different in every patient. No two people with EDS will have the exact same story or the exact same symptoms. Some of the most common symptoms are easy bruising, stretchy skin, frequent joint dislocations, joint pain, heart problems, muscle weakness, poor wound healing. The list can go on and on. What type of EDS do I have? So I have the hypermobility type of EDS, and that used to be known as EDS type 3, I believe, but now it's just called hypermobility EDS or HEDS, and this is the most common type of EDS. How did I get diagnosed, and did I have to travel out of state to get a diagnosis? So I was diagnosed with EDS by a geneticist, and thankfully I did not have to travel out of state to be diagnosed. Many of my doctors at that point had suspected EDS and even basically diagnosed me with EDS, but I did have a confirmed diagnosis by a geneticist. How did I feel after I got diagnosed with EDS? Well, I think it was kind of a mixture of being relieved to have an answer as to why I've been so sick for so long, and then also a feeling kind of sad that it's not something that's like able to go away. There's no cure, and so it can be a bit overwhelming when you get diagnosed at first, but ultimately I think we were happy to have an answer and to have like more of a direction of where we needed to go to find help and treatment and those kinds of things. So this was one of the most common questions I was asked. What were your earliest signs of EDS, and when did you start showing symptoms? I kind of consider myself to be a more unusual EDS patient in that, like, I didn't grow up dislocating a lot of my joints. I had a pretty good childhood and a healthy childhood. I did have my issues. Whenever I got sick, it took me longer than most people to like get better. I had, hypermobility. I was really flexible. I was active and athletic, and I didn't really have a ton of problems. I guess I got injured a little bit easier than some of my other friends, but I really did have a good childhood and was pretty healthy up until my teenage years. I started to have some more issues when I turned like 15 or 16 and got into high school. And so I'm really thankful for having good health when I was a child and not too many issues from EDS. Everyone's story is different. Some people present with, severe EDS symptoms from when they were really young, but more commonly I've seen people tend to have like a health crash where they go from being pretty healthy and then all of a sudden lots of things start going wrong. Does anyone else in my family have symptoms of EDS or diagnosis of EDS? So I am actually the only person in my family that has been diagnosed with EDS, and all my immediate family is actually really pretty healthy, but we definitely have traced the EDS traits to my dad's side of the family. His two biological siblings have both had a lot of health issues. My uncle had some strokes very young, and he's had spinal surgeries, and then my dad's mom also has some signs of EDS. What was your score on the beighton scale? So the beighton scale is a score from 0 to 9, and it assesses your level of hypermobility, and that's just a small part of the EDS diagnosis process. My score on the beighton scale was 6. What comorbid conditions of EDS do I have? So comorbid conditions are just like secondary conditions that are caused by EDS. And I do have quite a few. These are kind of the main ones. So I have Chiari malformation, I have POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, I have craniocervical instability and spinal instability, tethered cord syndrome, intracranial hypertension, and adrenal insufficiency. I probably missed some, but those are kind of the main ones that come to mind right now. What EDS comorbidity would you get rid of if you could get rid of one? I would definitely say craniocervical instability or spinal instability, just because if I could go back and not have to have a neck fusion, then I would really love that. So why is it important to get diagnosed with EDS if there isn't a cure? I think it's important to get diagnosed with EDS because once you know you have EDS, it becomes easier to put together like different symptoms that you have and find out what other conditions you have that go along with your EDS. And so, for example, if you have neurological issues or GI issues, then now you can look up, you know, GI issues that happen with EDS versus just trying to blindly find answers to your symptoms. And so I think it's really helpful to have a diagnosis and be able to like seek treatment for the different issues that EDS brings. Of course, there's no treatment like for EDS in general, but there are treatments for some of the conditions that come along with EDS. So it definitely is helpful to know whether or not you have it. Do you have a lot of joint dislocations? Thankfully, I don't. I actually would say that my joint problems with EDS are more of like mild to moderate versus my neurological issues that have come with EDS are more on the severe side. And so I do often sublux joints, which is like a partial dislocation where I can feel them kind of like coming out of place and have to just like pop them back in. Outside of joint issues, how does EDS most affect you? I guess I've already kind of covered this one. EDS has definitely affected me by far the most neurologically with, you know, my Chiari and craniocervical instability and high intracranial pressure. Those things have definitely interfered with my life the most. There are a lot of other issues that I have experienced from EDS, but the neurological issues have definitely been the most debilitating part of EDS for me. What are some of your most problematic joints that are not in your spine? So I would definitely say my neck is probably the worst area, like joint-wise, for me with EDS. Besides that, my jaw has been a huge issue over the last years. It's been permanently dislocated to where I can't open it more than like just a little bit. That has given me a lot of pain, and my hips tend to give me a lot of issues. I have hip dysplasia, and in high school I started to have a lot of hip pain, and so I did physical therapy for that and have just had off and on flares of that like throughout the years. My shoulders have given me quite a bit of pain. Thankfully my knees have been pretty good. My ankles definitely have some weakness and instability, and so I've gotten a lot of ankle injuries over the years, but I still definitely would say that like the joint issues that I have really don't compare to the other issues that I've had with EDS, and I'm lucky for that, I know. Do you see EDS as a blessing, and if so, why? I like this question. So yes, I do see EDS as a blessing. When I became really sick about 3.5 years ago, it really just turned my life upside down. I know a lot of you guys have a similar story. It's made it so I couldn't do a lot of the things that I loved. I lost rock climbing and hiking and world traveling. EDS made it so I couldn't continue working my dream job, which I had. EDS has just brought so many hard things, but really it has shown me that no matter how much like we lose in life or how much pain or how many difficult things that we go through, like God is still good and he still loves us and we can still find joy. I think One of the blessings of being so sick has been learning to rely more on God and really appreciate the good moments and the joyful things in life. And then the other thing that I would say has been a big blessing is meeting others that have gone through similar things. I've just been blessed to meet some of the best people I've met in my life. So yeah, there are definitely blessings that have come from having EDS. What is one of the hardest things about having EDS? Of course, there are a lot of difficult things that come with having EDS. I would say the hardest thing is how much my life changed when I got really sick, and just having to miss out on things that I love. Like, I was the type of person that said yes to everything and loved traveling and going on adventures, and I did not like to watch TV. I didn't like to rest. I didn't like to miss out on fun things, and that's what happens when you become really sick. Sometimes it gets to a point where you just can't push through things anymore, and you have to say no, and you have to miss out, and that has been the hardest thing for me. And I've learned how to cope with it over time, but I don't think that it's something you can ever just be like completely okay with. I don't think there's anything wrong with being sad about how hard it is to be sick, or like crying or getting upset about it. I know I come on here with a smile a lot and try to be as positive as possible, but like I cry often, and I will never be one to discount how hard it is to be chronically ill. So yeah, missing out on things, I think that's the hardest thing for me. I'm curious, what's the hardest thing for you guys about being chronically ill? Let me know. Has physical therapy helped with your overall pain? It hasn't helped me to like overall feel better, but like with individual joint problems, when my joints get locked or whatever, like having my physical therapist unlock my joints and help me do strengthening exercises and get them back in the right place, that has helped with some of my like joint specific pains. I think it's really important, so I try my best to do physical therapy as much as I can. I was working really hard on it before Christmas, but unfortunately my health has been worse the last few months, and so my fatigue and dizziness have not really allowed me to do as much physical therapy as I would like to, but I'm still doing like neck isometric exercises and just whatever I can handle day to day. How does mast cell activation syndrome affect you? So mast cell is a common comorbid condition of EDS. Several of my doctors have kind of like assumed I have a mild case of it because I do get flushing and sometimes like some puffiness in my cheeks and like rashes on my neck. But thankfully I do not have bad mast cell. I do not have the anaphylactic type reactions that many EDS patients do, and I'm really thankful for that. What are some things that make living with EDS easier? I would say for me it's really been just trying to find things that I can enjoy, that I can physically do. And so obviously that's changed a lot since I've become sick, and I've been able to pick up things like crocheting and making jewelry and just finding like new hobbies and new things that still bring me happiness and like something to look forward to. That has helped me a lot. And of course, relying on my family and friends and God for support has made a huge difference for me with living with EDS. What is my least favorite symptom of EDS? Gosh, I think that would be severe headaches, migraines, dizziness, fatigue, type of fatigue where like your limbs just feel so heavy, like you're walking through water type of fatigue. I would also say my dystonic seizures, those are some of my very least favorite symptoms, and nerve pain. Oh gosh, the list just goes on. Okay, did you get DNA testing for EDS or have a clinical evaluation? So I did get DNA testing for vascular and classical EDS, and those both came back negative. So it was a clinical diagnosis. Any advice you would give for nurses caring for EDS patients? That's a cool question. I would say just anything that you can do to learn about EDS is like very much appreciated. It really means a lot when nurses just listen and are willing to learn about EDS. That's all we can really ask. What advice would you give to somebody that has just been diagnosed with EDS? I would say the biggest thing would be to not give up hope. I know having EDS is so difficult and it can take so much from us, but people do improve, and it is possible for you to improve no matter how bad things are. There's always hope, and EDS is a huge spectrum from people who are barely affected and able to live very normal, active lives to people who are, completely disabled from having very severe complications of EDS. And don't compare yourself to others with EDS. Your journey is going to be different, and that's okay. There are a lot of people that are living very full and great lives with EDS, and no matter how sick you are or how limiting your illness has become, you can still live a good life and find purpose in your life. If you have just been diagnosed with EDS, know that you aren't alone, and there are a lot of us out here who know what it's like. I think that's it for the questions. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you guys have any more questions, you can leave them in a comment down below, and I will try to get to as many of them as I can. If you guys are new around here, welcome. My name is Rachel, and I post new videos each week. Sometimes they're vlogs, sometimes they're more informational videos like this one. So if you'd like to see more videos like this, then you can click subscribe, and I will look forward to seeing you guys next week. Bye!